At the BRICS summit in Kazan, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian condemned U.S. policy and rallied support for Palestine, receiving applause from Russian President Putin. This significant event took place from October 22nd to 24th, 2024, marking a pivotal moment in global geopolitics as emerging powers seek to redefine their alliances and challenge established norms. What does Pezeshkian's bold condemnation of Western policies mean for international relations? Could his fiery address at the BRICS summit ignite a broader movement against established power dynamics? Join us as we explore the implications of this pivotal moment in global politics and its significance for trade, diplomacy, and international cooperation. Chapter 1. Context of the BRICS Summit. The BRICS Summit brought together leaders from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and several new members, including Iran, Egypt, Ethiopia, and the United Arab Emirates. This gathering was not merely a routine diplomatic meeting, but a strategic platform for discussing pressing global issues that resonate with the interests of the Global South. The summit aimed to reinforce multilateral cooperation among member states to counterbalance Western hegemony, while also focusing on creating alternative financial systems to reduce dependency on Western-dominated institutions like SWIFT. Leaders expressed solidarity on various geopolitical issues, including the Palestinian cause and opposition to unilateral sanctions imposed by Western powers. The backdrop of the summit included heightened geopolitical tensions, particularly in the Middle East, where conflicts involving Israel and Hamas have intensified. This context sets the stage for Pezeshkian's address. Chapter 2. Pezeshkian's fiery address. President Pezeshkian's speech was a highlight of the summit. He criticized U.S. policies for perpetuating conflict and instability in the Middle East. His statement that the flames of war continue to rage in the Gaza Strip underscored his condemnation of international institutions that fail to effectively address these crises. He accused the U.S. of exacerbating tensions in the region through military interventions and unwavering support for Israel. He reiterated Iran's long-standing support for Palestinian rights and sovereignty, while expressing disappointment with organizations like the United Nations for their ineffectiveness in resolving conflicts. Pezeshkian's rhetoric was particularly pointed against Western interventions in global affairs, which he argued exacerbate conflicts rather than resolve them. His remarks were a reflection of Iran's foreign policy and an appeal to other BRICS nations to unite against perceived injustices. Chapter 3. Key themes of Pezeshkian's speech. Pezeshkian's speech highlighted several key themes resonating with Iranian foreign policy and anti-imperialist sentiments among developing nations. He condemned United States policies for exacerbating Middle Eastern tensions through military interventions and unwavering support for Israel, which he argued undermines peace efforts and fuels violence. A central focus was his call for Palestinian statehood, emphasizing Iran's commitment to Palestinian rights and sovereignty, and advocating for international recognition of Palestine. Pezeshkian criticized international institutions like the United Nations for their ineffectiveness in mediating conflicts and addressing historical injustices faced by marginalized communities. His address served as a rallying cry for BRICS nations to unite against systemic injustices perpetrated by powerful countries, framing his arguments within a broader context of resistance against Western dominance. Chapter 4. The impact of Pezeshkian's speech. Pezeshkian's speech resonates strongly within the context of BRICS's goals and aspirations as a coalition representing emerging economies seeking greater influence on the global stage. By condemning U.S. policies and advocating for Palestinian rights, he positioned Iran as a moral leader among developing nations, a narrative likely intended both domestically and internationally. The Iranian president's remarks were significant in their content and represented a broader shift towards solidarity among nations historically marginalized or oppressed by Western powers. This appeal for unity was particularly relevant given current geopolitical dynamics characterized by rising tensions between established powers like the United States and emerging economies seeking greater autonomy. The implications of this speech extend beyond immediate political alignments. They signal a potential shift towards a more multipolar world where emerging powers assert their interests against established Western hegemony. Chapter 5: Putin's enthusiastic response. Putin's enthusiastic applause during Pezeshkian's address signaled a strong endorsement of Iran's position and emphasized Russia's commitment to supporting allies who challenge Western narratives. Putin utilized the summit to present Russia as a leader of a new multipolar world order, asserting that BRICS represents a global majority that can counteract Western dominance. His remarks included a critique of what he termed illegal unilateral sanctions imposed by Western nations, arguing they destabilize global security. He also highlighted initiatives like BRICS Pay, aimed at facilitating trade among member states without relying on Western financial systems. Chapter 6: Strategic Alliances. The summit underscored the strengthening ties between Russia and Iran as they navigate their respective challenges posed by Western sanctions and military actions. The Comprehensive Cooperation Treaty between Russia and Iran was expected to be signed during this summit, further solidifying their partnership. While Pezeshkian's address resonated strongly with Putin, other leaders at the summit offered varying perspectives. China's President Xi Jinping emphasized the importance of peace initiatives in Ukraine while promoting economic cooperation within BRICS. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi maintained a cautious approach, advocating for dialogue but avoiding direct criticism of Russia regarding its actions in Ukraine. These differing viewpoints illustrate the complex dynamics within BRICS as member states balance national interests against collective goals. Chapter 7: Media Coverage and Public Perception. The summit received extensive coverage from Russian state media, which portrayed it as a significant diplomatic victory for Putin amidst his international isolation. State-controlled outlets emphasized that BRICS nations represent nearly half of the world's population and are poised to challenge the United States' influence globally. However, despite this positive portrayal by Russian media, there were notable absences at the summit that raised questions about BRICS cohesion. Leaders from Brazil, Cuba, and Serbia canceled their participation, prompting discussions about internal divisions within BRICS. Critics pointed out that while BRICS aims to present a united front against Western policies, differing priorities among member states could hinder effective collaboration. The internal cohesion of BRICS is critical as it faces external pressures from established powers like the United States and its allies. Chapter 8: Broader Implications for Global Politics. The dynamics at the recent BRICS summit illustrate a significant shift in global power structures, with member nations increasingly positioning themselves as a counterbalance to Western influence and advocating for a multipolar world order. Key discussions focused on enhancing economic cooperation to reduce reliance on Western financial systems, including proposals for alternative payment systems to bypass sanctions and the exploration of a common currency for trade among members. Both Russian President Putin and Iranian President Pezeshkian emphasized the need to reform international institutions like the United Nations to better reflect contemporary geopolitical realities, advocating for expanded representation from developing nations and enhanced cooperation with regional organizations such as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and the African Union. Chapter 9: Challenges Ahead. While there is enthusiasm among BRICS leaders about their potential influence on global affairs, several challenges lie ahead that could complicate their objectives. Internal divisions among member states could hinder effective collaboration on key issues. Differing priorities may lead some countries to prioritize economic cooperation with Western nations due to trade dependencies, while others may lean towards forming stronger ties with Russia and China. Global economic uncertainty poses another challenge. Ongoing economic challenges posed by inflation and energy crises may complicate efforts for deeper economic integration among member states. Geopolitical tensions stemming from conflicts such as Ukraine continue creating divisions regarding how best to respond to Western policies. The internal cohesion of BRICS is critical as it faces external pressures from established powers like the United States and its allies. Differing perspectives on how best to approach issues such as sanctions against Russia or support for Palestine could lead to fractures within the group if not managed carefully. Chapter 10: The BRICS Future. The various elements that look to determine what course BRICS will chart in the future include expansion efforts, as more countries are raising interest in joining, such as Argentina or Saudi Arabia. This forces debates on the best modality to integrate new members without diluting core objectives. Ongoing wars, such as in Ukraine or Syria, shape BRICS alliances, while member states reassess their positions given the change in developments. Expansion could dramatically change the dynamic of BRICS, with countries like Indonesia and Mexico expressing interest in their increasing presence on global platforms. Any such expansion would add more diversity to decision-making processes and complicate attempts at consensus building considering varied national interests. Understanding the current tensions requires understanding the historical contexts involved in United States-Iran relations and broader Middle Eastern geopolitics more generally. Chapter 11: Rise of Multipolarity. Multipolarity is the process of several centers of power appearing worldwide to shake off unipolarity dominated by the United States during the post-Cold War era. For example, countries like China have been more and more assertive economically and politically within their respective regions of influence, whereby decisions of international organizations are increasingly dependent on them while also developing alliances with other developing nations. We see the emergence of the importance of forums such as BRICS, where emerging economies come together to share resources and knowledge to jointly achieve goals rather than relying on the constructs of traditionally powerful actors. With this rising momentum of the emerging powers come several questions related to the pattern of future global governance. Will traditional institutions make room for changes in reality? Or will new coalitions emerge outside existing frameworks, perhaps at the expense of undermining legitimacy and authority from established entities? How will the established powers respond? These questions are, however, still open-ended, but essential for shaping future relations between the diverse actors operating in an ever-infuriating geopolitical environment. Chapter 12: Economic Strategies within BRICS. Disclosing the economic policies of BRICS member states reveals significant potential for collective action. A key focus has been on increasing intra-BRICS trade agreements to facilitate smoother transactions and lower barriers and tariffs that hinder commerce. By simplifying customs procedures and documentation, member states can enhance connectivity and promote mutual benefits from increased trade in goods and services. These agreements may help offset external economic shocks and create a buffer against externalities. Additionally, promoting investments in infrastructure and energy projects allows BRICS nations to pool resources for mega projects that exceed individual capabilities. Such investments not only foster local growth, but also strengthen relationships among partners, building trust and collaboration over time. What do you think about the growing influence of BRICS in global politics? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more engaging content. Your support helps us to bring you even more insightful discussions.